Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning everyone and welcome to our ISMM webinar. The format today will be a 20-minute slide presentation followed by 10 minutes of questions and answers. I have placed all attendees on mute to avoid us all speaking at the same time, so if you have any questions please use the chat function and send these across to me so I can ask Tom on your behalf after his presentation. Today Tom Castley will be talking to us about how you can motivate salespeople with effective sales incentives. It's with great pleasure that I'm introducing your host today, Tom Castley. Hello,
Thank you,
Tom.
Natasha. Tom, yes, hello. Thank you. So good morning, everybody. Quite a few of you on the line. It's great to see that this webinar is so well attended. As Natasha said, my name is Tom Castley. I'm the Vice President of Xactly in EMEA, and our business is all about helping organizations improve the way they manage, automate, and control their incentives process. As a side reference, you'll see on this title slide the website www.gametheplan.com. That is a link to a book which is written by our CEO, Chris Crabera, and speaks to many of the concepts and subjects that I will be sharing in this presentation today, and has been well reviewed and is a useful source in anybody wanting to learn a little bit more in depth about the whole business of effective incentives. And when I talk about incentives, it's not this method. It always tickles me when I see this cartoon of his slideshow of former employees fired for their poor performance. It's, as I say, it's clearly not the way that we should be going about providing incentives to those in sales or outside of sales. We are starting to see a significant minority of people who in various job roles, all the way from development to delivery drivers to postal workers, being provided with incentives, not only just salespeople. And what's interesting here, in a market that is dominated by people using things like Excel and bespoke systems to manage their incentives process, that the starting point for lots of organizations is just about doing what they're currently doing quicker. And this Henry Ford quote, another limbic anchor, if you will, as part of this presentation, when he was developing his first car, he thought it was a bit of a Fruit Loop, really, because all of his customers wanted to have faster horses. They couldn't see beyond what they'd been doing all of this time. So what we should hope is that, all of you on the call, everybody on here, should be looking to drive to this kind of vision, which is we're in the business of improving, and as sales leaders, as business leaders, improving sales results and performance through the use of, and I would interject in there, through the use of effective incentives. And to deal with the 4G employment generations that we have at the moment. So we've got 4 generations of people working in the workforce at the moment, all the way from baby boomers down to Gen Z. And those folks are motivated in entirely different ways, but what we are seeing now is 50% of access to a system or an incentive system, something like Xactly and many others, is through a mobile device. People want real-time mobile access to understand how they are achieving, how they are attaining, and where they want to get to. So the question you'd naturally ask is, okay, Tom, so if we wanted to put in place an effective incentive process that was going to motivate our salespeople, what are the building blocks to making that achievable? Well, first things first is we need to have something that is able to automate and control those incentives. If we want to incentivize more often, we want to have different paradigms to that incentives. So ones which are attractive to the baby boomer generation, ones which are attractive to millennials, one that's attractive to Gen Z, one that's attractive to different job roles. You're now exacerbating the challenge of personalizing those incentives. And we've seen in many facets of business where we're looking to personalize something increases complexity, and with complexity, automation makes sense. But once you've done that, once you have automated and have the telemetry, if you will, associated with those right incentives, and then the next step is communicating that out to those who are being incentivized, giving the ability, maybe through leaderboards, giving them the ability to see how much they've earned within the month, within the period, how much they could potentially earn, allowing them to model some of that as well, is the way that you inspire performance. And then those two together is what drives the results. And we certainly see time and time again where organizations are getting this right, they are winning their unfair share or an unfair percentage of the business compared to their competition and to their peers. Now, interestingly enough, when you look at the entire market, 85% of organizations still use Excel for running their incentive compensation process. And we know that Excel is difficult to manage when you get these complex scenarios. What you're seeing in the background there is a real formula from somebody that we met who was running their incentive compensation process on an Excel spreadsheet. And you may ask, how many degrees in pure natural and rocket science and everything else would somebody need to be able to run and manage that effectively, let alone to be able to do some kind of, modeling or, to trialing new ideas, to cater for a changing business environment. So things first here is you either need to significantly simplify your plan, which means you're getting away from that personalization agenda and effective incentives, or you need to find something that's better at allowing you to run and automate an incentives process. Recently I was speaking with the CFO of Akamai, a large high-tech company that some of you may be aware of. And when they were running an Excel-based system, they had significant challenges with forecasting accurately their total spend on incentives. They didn't know how much commission they were going to be paying out to their sales teams. The extent of which meant that they had to accrue 20% of the overall incentive budget. They put they accrued it away just in case they overspent on that. Now, given the amount of money they spend on incentives globally, that was a significant sum of money, which they had no way of utilizing. They weren't able to drive that capital into their business. And subsequent to automating their incentives, they were able to reduce that down to 3%, thus freeing up all of that capital for running their business in a more effective manner. So it's not just about the payoffs on taking this approach are not just about improving the effectiveness of your sales team. You can improve the efficiency of your business overall. So how does that look as a picture? Now, this is a bit of an eye chart. I have said to Natasha, we're going to put this together for the webinar here, and we will make this available on a PDF in the members area of the ISMM website, so that you can download this at your will. And this kind of speaks overall to the payoff and to the approach that one can take to really driving the effectiveness of your sales organization through incentives. What you'll see across the bottom, just to kind of signpost this out, I spoke earlier on in this presentation about automate. I then spoke about the motivational side of things, which is the middle panel, and we didn't really touch on it, but the optimize piece is around benchmarking yourself against your competition or your peers or your geography to make sure that you are paying an equitable amount of money, that you have the right amount of variable pay versus salary with your sales folks in the business. If you move to the top half of the sheet, we talk about the enablers to effective incentives. So we talked about the automate, and clearly that's not the right mechanics. It's not the right tool for the job. But here's the crux. Here's the payoff in the middle, this misalignment, if we can fix that. So one of the statistics you'll be drawn to is 45% of incentive compensation plans are completely misaligned with corporate objectives. Ask yourselves, what is the objective of my business this year? Are we in customer acquisition mode? Are we in revenue, maximizing our revenue? Are we really looking at the margin of our business? And are those corporate objectives really reflected in the incentives we're putting in place for our salespeople? And are they being reflected with the right level of importance? So some key statistics here for you. At Exactly, we've collected kind of that telemetry data, that information about every single incentive compensation payment we've ever made on behalf of all of our customers. We've anonymized that. We make that available to our customers to then benchmark and make those studies. And when we delve into that big data, there's three key things which I'd like you to take away from this section of the presentation. Number one, any behavior in your organization is being incentivized by something. To overrule that, to remove the noise, a particular measure needs to account for at least 20% of the variable pay. Now, where that leads you to is, one is, if it's 20%, it's significant enough to drive behavior. But number two then is that the total number of measures, the optimum number of measures, the optimum number of levers that a salesperson should have in their plan is 3. Any more than that, and salespeople will pick the levers that are most suited to them and can cause a misalignment, and any less than that becomes restrictive. So we found the highest performing plans have 3 levers in them. And the challenge that you have, of course, is picking the 3 levers that align the behavior of your salespeople to the objectives of your business. And that's no easy task, but with good automation, you can start to to find out whether the levers are effective or not. What you'll also then find in terms of that missed opportunity on the right-hand side is this loss by sharing. If you only have so much money to spend on incentives, you want to make sure that you're spending that in an effective way. And the optimum number of people to pay on a deal is between 5 and 7. The worst we've ever seen is 161 people being paid on one deal in one organization. That dilution is not a solution. Okay, so when we talk about motivation, clearly the carrot process is more attractive to at least 3 of those generations than the stick approach. And if you think about it, we're kind of living in a world that has these motivators around us all of the time. And there's many smart companies that are always working out in the B2C, in the business to consumer world, on how to provide these structured, smart, successful, and valued concepts. And good examples of that would be any of you who are traveling. A lot of salespeople I know spend a lot of time on planes, trains, and automobiles. And we're already pushed down this kind of rewarding, engaging world with people like British Airways and others. And I know in my business, when I look around, pretty much everybody's got a Fitbit, an Apple Watch, or something that's tracking their activity and comparing them to friends, family, and others as they compete to be the top of the pile. And this is kind of what I'm alluding to is, incentives. Let's draw a picture here. So rewarding the journey as well as the destination. So incentives, sales incentives, typically that commission payment has always been about rewarding the destination, that when the deal is closed or when the customer is billed. Truly effective organizations reward the journey as well. They game the journey, okay? And we found, and these are statistics from our customers, where we've seen this kind of impact, not just in terms of increasing the performance of the sales team, but imagine increasing the performance in all of these areas just through having leaderboards and gamification in process. Increasing contacts, depth of data, quality of data, adoption of systems that allow us to track and work more effectively with our staff. Not only that, when we looked at, and we did some research ourselves recently around behaviors and engagements, we found that that 25% of people believe their performance has no impact on their pay. I mean, that's unbelievable in terms of just the workforce and the desire that they have to have that flexibility. But 16% of employees enjoyed more holiday time, and 11% found company recognition to be the most beneficial. So some people, and this goes across the sales organization as well, are not necessarily as highly motivated by money, especially in the Gen Y, Gen Z environment, than people from my generation, and therefore I'm kind of predisposed to thinking that everybody is like me. So have a broader view as well around the whole engagement cycle. I mean, some ideas on that and around those non-financial rewards are, it gives everybody an opportunity for success. When you reward the journey, not everybody makes the destination every month. Not everybody smashes their number every month. But rewarding people for doing the right things, recognizing good behaviors, motivating people towards your journey, the journey for success, your corporate objectives, really does drive that day-to-day engagement within a business. I mean, we certainly find that areas around peer and colleague recognition. Within Exactly, we use it's a free tool called Slack. It's kind of a WhatsApp for business, I think would be the better description. And when we have any of these kind of minor wins in our business, everybody plows in and recognizes that mini win, and that draws people into a process, is engaging and encouraging, and doesn't cost a thing. It's just around good management and good communication that drives that whole process. Indeed, it kind of sits in with the principles upon which we built the Exactly business, which is care, and so for us, this would come around respect and excellence and recognizing those two things. A couple of other examples that you might want to use as incentives would be things like short breaks and days out, maybe adventure days, maybe even kind of pampering and food and drink events. And we're using these very successfully within our own business, to kind of drive additional behaviors. I'll give you two examples. One we're running at the moment in our business is for anybody who gets past their number with 2 weeks to go in the quarter. In other words, stopping that congestion of deals that can sometimes happen in a business towards the end of the quarter. I've asked them to fill out a shopping cart on any site, anywhere on the internet, so e-commerce site, with £1,000 of goods which they want. And so some people have gone for fashion apparel, some people have gone for an away day, some people have gone for gadgets and gizmos, and they're posted on the wall, and there's a little progress bar that goes towards it. Now, what's interesting is it's a non-financial award in that they're not going to be given the cash, but they're getting some luxury items that maybe they've never gone by, because if they got paid it as a financial bonus, that would go towards their mortgage, go towards rent, bills, and wouldn't become the luxury kind of gift, the experience that we're trying to drive. So a takeaway for you there is experiences last longer in the mind than money. And if you want to truly engage people, it's through experiences that can drive that engagement. Okay. So kind of as I said earlier, just look at that creativity as well around that engagement. A phone call, go home early, come in late, an off-the-cuff coffee run, bring in lunch, these kind of things, just to kind of keep the refreshed nature of the environment in which everybody's working, that pressure cooker environment. So what you should have hopefully have heard over the last 20 minutes is, one is an approach to getting yourself in a position to be able to automate better, more effective incentives which are aligned to your corporate objectives and are not out of kilter with your market, are benchmarked appropriately. Recognizing that it's not all about the destination, but it can be about the journey as well. It doesn't always have to cost money. Engagement can come from good management. And also, kind of, with no surprise, a simple plan is easier to manage, is easier to understand by the salespeople, and thus can be more motivating and more effective in meeting those corporate objectives. I hope you found this presentation informative. I understand we're now going to move to a set of questions, and I'm more than happy to open it out to the floor. Natasha.
Thank you, Tom. We've got a couple of questions already. How do you prove that the sales commission plan is resulting in the right sales behavior?
That's a great question. So one of the most effective ways of doing that is looking at what's called a payout curve, where you are looking at attainment to quota versus the amount that's been paid out against plan. And so if somebody is 60% of quota but has been paid out 110% of plan, you would start to draw a conclusion. Well, hang on a minute. This person is getting paid more money than the business they're driving us. Is that right or wrong? And you could then delve into the detail to find out, why is that? It might be that they're not giving anybody any discount, and you've put that as a lever in your plan, which is to drive margin and profitability, and they're just like the perfect salesperson, which would be great. It might be that you have something slightly off center with your plan, and you might want to look at addressing that within the year to ensure that people are being paid appropriately for the business they're providing. But a payout curve is a great place to start, and any tool that's automating your incentives would have that capability within it.
Okay, we've got another couple. What about incentivizing enterprise salespeople who get 1 or 2 very large deals per year? Oh, sorry, what about incentivizing enterprise salespeople who get 1 or 2 very large deals per year?
Good. So what I think I'm hearing here is one of the callers on the line has is probably selling high value items, and those things don't happen every week. They might happen, as the caller said, on once or twice a year.
Yes.
But it's going to be a massive paycheck when that arrives potentially. And I guess that naturally speaks to that part of the presentation where I was talking about reward the journey, not just the destination. So, with the right kind of systems in place, they can be capturing good behaviors throughout the sales cycle. So, does the person have what are some of the traits of a high percentage, high probability win? That might be in their organization that they're engaged with at least a CFO, a leader in the business, and 3 other contacts. It might be that they have a partner engaged in that opportunity. It might be that the prospect is willing to attend an event that's laid on by the business. And, those are kind of the traits of a high percentage win. Then I would encourage that organization to look at rewarding those small wins. And and signposting their salespeople to driving those kind of behaviors during the opportunity process and gaining that. And having gained that, one is there's a high probability of a win. Secondly, then there's a high probability that salesperson is going to be successful, paid well, and retained.
Brilliant. We've got another couple. We've already invested in Salesforce to drive sales behavior. How does ICM offer anything different?
Yeah, I tell you what, there are well-educated bunch of people on the call. So Salesforce is a customer of ours. Actually, it's one of our longest standing customers. And what they would tell you, if you ask them why do they have exactly, I think the best example of that is about 4 or 5 years ago, their Service Cloud business, which is the piece that is used in contact centers and support organizations, wasn't selling as effectively as they wanted it to. The business wasn't growing as quickly as they wanted it to. What they did with exactly was they modeled a SPIF, a short-term incentive, that they calculated out how much it was going to cost them if it was successful. They put that into Salesforce, so it was embedded within their Salesforce system. And they drove an 80% increase in sales performance and revenue for Service Cloud in running that SPIF. So if you think of an analogy where Salesforce, the CRM system, is like petrol for a car, you need the petrol to make it go. Think of an incentive system, an ICM system, as the steering wheel that can set the direction. So if you're running a good CRM system, you've got lots of fuel in the tank and you can just keep going and going and going, which is great. But you do need to be able to change the direction of the business, and that's what incentives allow you to do.
Okay, we've got one more. We have a sales team of 20. What would be the most suitable solution for us, in your opinion?
Now, that's, again, everything. So you've got a team of 20 people. So you're kind of on the cusp, okay, of where automation may or may not make sense. And, we do have customers with just 10 reps which have automated and have got a business case and an ROI for doing it, okay? But when you have 20 people, you may be able to have a really simple plan. If you're in growth mode, it will just be about customer acquisition. Profitability and revenue can come in time. But if you've moved on beyond that and you're kind of looking at 2 measures and you're on a growth plan and you want to kind of set the foundations for growth early on in the organization, then again you might want to automate. There are, if you're a Salesforce customer, if you look on the Salesforce App Exchange and you look for incentive compensation for SMB, then there'll be a few tools that will appear in that list. We're one of them, and from there you can find, and they're the tools which are geared towards an organization with, say, 15 to 50 salespeople, that kind of level.
Okay, I think that's it for now. Thank you so much for your time, Tom, today. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Not at all. As I say, just in terms of a resource, there is the Game the Plan book. I encourage you. It's a good read. I read it myself. and really helps again to encapsulate and goes into a little bit more detail the complexities behind actual plan design and some of the gotchas, but also some of the really useful tactics that you can engage as business leaders in your own organizations without necessarily spending a lot of time, effort, resource, and money with, high-end consulting and HR businesses, which can potentially be the trap when people over-engineer the challenge.
Okay, sorry, Tom. We've actually received another question, if you're happy to take it. It says, don't comparative devices such as leaderboards actually create a divisive rather than team environment within a company?
Again, let's have what I think I heard was having a leaderboard in place can drive negative or kind of, as the caller said, divisive behaviors rather than a collaborative culture.
Yes, I think that's what they're asking, yes.
Again, there is an eternal debate that talks about, the whole use of commissions. Does that actually create a divisive environment where salespeople are not necessarily have the interests of their customers at the core of their mind? They're just worried about, maximizing the amount of money they earn. And that, to me, comes down to business leadership and responsibility. So, and also there are certain legislative frameworks. So, for example, in Germany, you can't have a leaderboard. It goes against all of the workers' councils environments. In a lot of industries, we find people may have a leaderboard, but they wouldn't necessarily publish the names of everybody on it. They would just say, Tom Castley, you're number 3 in the leaderboard, and you're X number of points away from being number 2. So then it becomes kind of a blind leaderboard where I know where I need to get to the next place up the ladder, but I don't know who I'm competing against. It doesn't create that kind of divisive environment. I think with all incentives, we just need to ensure there's a balanced approach and that the culture and the ethos of your company doesn't come second place to the money, in essence. There's still the corporate values shine through.
Okay, they tried to formulate a bit more, but I'm not sure what they were saying. They just said commissions wouldn't be comparative, though. So it's the same question, and I think he's just saying that commissions aren't comparative, though. I've asked to specify.
I'm not sure. By all means, my email address is up on the thank you page there. If they want to reach out to me directly, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with them and try and help them kind of formulate a response to that.
Okay, that might help. It might be slightly clearer. Okay. I think that's it. Thank you so much for your time, Tom. Thank you everyone today for attending. Please be sure to check out our website for upcoming events, webinars and seminars. And thank you, Tom, for helping us out today.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.